Welcome to Parenthood Bites, the podcast where we explore life as a parent in tech. I'm your host, Chow, and I have over 15 years of experience in tech, and I'm also currently working as a career coach. I'm the proud mother of 3 incredible boys. In each episode, we have an inspiring guest who will share their remarkable story. You'll find their wisdom and insights both relatable and enriching, because after all, we're all in this parenting journey together. So grab your favorite drink, get cozy, and let's dive into today's episode. Hi everyone, welcome to episode 28 of Parenthood Bites. We're here today with Vicky Fang, who is formerly a staff designer at Google and currently is a children's book illustrator and author in the Bay Area. Hi Vicky, how are you?
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to talk to you today too. And since it's almost the weekend, do you have any plans for the weekend?
Yeah, this weekend, actually, we're sending the kids to their grandparents' house for the weekend. So my husband and I are just hanging out, might take a little day trip down to Carmel. That's our plan.
Oh, that's amazing. And you're probably going to not get used to it at first, right? Like, what's that noise?
I
Silence.
know.
What is that? That's so fun.
How about you?
We're celebrating my second son's birthday, and then Great America opens up this
Aw.
weekend. So they're closed like part of the year, and then I guess they open up starting this weekend. So he was like, I want to go to Great America. I'm like, okay, let's go. So we get
Oh,
season passes every year because it's a pretty good deal. And then they have stuff for kids like young kids, older kids. We try to stay away from the really older kids. Like we try to go when it opens before the teenagers wake up, maybe. And then we're out when the older kids go.
oh, yeah. I still haven't taken my kids. I'll have to take them. I hear such great things about it. So,
Yeah, they love Snoopy Land. And then like in the summer, there's like the water park. And then there's a section for
yeah.
the young kids. So it's nice. Yeah.
Okay.
It's nice to kill a day or like a few hours, and then they come home and they're
Yeah.
tired and they want to rest. And so we rest too.
Yeah. Perfect.
So, how many kids do you have and what are their ages?
I have 2 kids. They are 8 and 10, so a second grader and a fourth grader. Yeah. So I stumbled into tech. I was an actress actually, and it was way back when during like the early 2000s. And so it was kind of the dot-com era. And I was freelancing at a couple dot-coms because, acting doesn't pay very well. And you have a lot of free time when you're out in Hollywood, trying to get auditions. So I was working at some startups and I started learning a little bit about tech and I started just making animations on my own and wanted to get into game design. So I ended up going to grad school in New York and then getting tech jobs after that. So I was probably in tech for 10 years before I started having kids.
Nice. So, I want to hear a little bit about the acting. What was that like?
Oh, so the acting, I went out to Hollywood. I slept on my friend's couch. I started going auditions, got an agent, and I had a couple small jobs on TV and it was fun, but the jobs were so few and far between. And then eventually I just felt like I didn't have enough control over that career, which is funny because now I'm writing and it's almost the same. Like I had to get an agent and I have to pitch myself, but I feel a little more in control with the writing because I can make my own projects, which is a little harder when you're acting.
Yeah, for sure. And I wanted to hear about the writing too. Like, how did you get into that? What made you decide to switch from being in tech to becoming a writer?
Yeah, so I was a product designer for many years, and my last job in tech was at Google, where I was working on the kids and family team, and I was designing products for kids and families. And so at that time, I was also having my kids. So I was spending a lot of time learning about kids and developmental phases and, reading books with my kids. And as I was reading books with my kids, I realized, oh, wow. And through the research also actually at Google, realizing how important character and story are for kids, for them to learn, for them to experience and share that time with their parents through storytelling. And so I decided I wanted to start writing books. So I started writing books while I was still at Google. So I was doing it on the side. And I had no idea what I was getting into. It's the kind of thing like you're reading books with your kids and they're like, I could write this. And then you just start writing them, and then you realize like, oh gosh, there's like a very long and complicated path to getting a book published. I was doing it. I met some people in the industry, and I just, we all helped each other along. Like nothing happens. And then somebody's like, I got an agent, and everyone's all excited. So, just we helped each other along. And so I think I was at Google, I got an agent, I started getting book contracts. And at the point that I had I had 5 or 7 books under contract, that's when I just felt like, oh, I am stretched too thin. Like I'm trying to do this tech stuff that I'm burning out on. I'm trying to raise these 2 little kids. I'm trying to do this writing thing. And I feel like I'm not doing any of it well, And so I took a sabbatical from Google, and it was really hard for me to leave because I love product design and I loved collaborating with the team and I loved working towards a goal altogether. So it took me a long time to sort of let go of that career, like a very long time, years to let go of it. But I write a lot of books about STEM, and I incorporate a lot of my product design background into my books. So I feel like I get to stay in touch with the world a little bit that way.
Yeah, that's really neat. And that's a really tough decision for sure to, decide to
Yeah.
pivot completely to book writing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's something, I think maybe it's a US thing. People have told me it's a US thing, but like your identity is so tied up in your career. And I'd invested so many years into being a product designer, and I was really proud of what I did. And I think this too, having little kids while you're working in tech, it pulls you so thin and you feel like, am I doing either of these things well? Like I'm so cranky with my kids. I'm so tired when I go to work. Like I feel like I'm failing on both ends.
Yeah, the mom guilt is real.
Yeah. And it's so hard to switch your brain, You're trying to be so efficient at work and get things done, and then you go home and your kid is like trying to eat spaghetti with a straw and you're like,
Yeah. And now you're also able to influence younger kids, right? Writing about STEM and things like that. That's really awesome.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like a lot of my work at Google was introducing kids to coding and technology through technology experiences. So I was like designing robots for kids. I was doing like storytelling apps, those kinds of things. And I feel like now I get to do that through my books. And it's probably smaller scale, right? I'm not reaching as many users as I did at Google, but it feels much more personal. Like I'll have a kid come up to me at one of my readings and just be like, this is my favorite book. And they've like memorized every page. And, you just feel like, okay, if I made a difference to this one kid, I'm good, So
Yeah, that must be such a rewarding feeling to have a kid
it
come and tell you
is.
that.
Yeah.
Wow. And do your kids like reading your books as well?
They do. They love the books, and they get really proud actually when they see kids in their school reading my books. And I think there was a brief moment in time where my older one started getting a little embarrassed. He was a little bit nervous because he was like, I don't know, you write kids' books. And like he's getting older. He's like, they're kind of like younger kids. What if my friends don't think they're cool? And so he had a moment like that. And then he's come around now, though, and he's like, no, they're cool. They're still reading them. And I'm like, all right. So we'll see. When he hits middle school, it's going to be all over. So I just have to enjoy it now.
That's really neat. You read those books with them as well?
I don't read them to them anymore because they're old enough to read on their own. But they like working with me on the book. So they like coming up with book ideas. Like my younger one, because I'm illustrating as well, some of my books I illustrate, some of them I don't. But the ones that I illustrate, he loves like helping me color them. So actually sometimes he helps like do the coloring, and he's gotten really good with the digital tools, like, filling and doing the outlines. And then he'll sometimes even enter in the text, the copy into the books. And like, obviously I have to like clean things up and check after he's done, but it's great. And then my older one will sometimes help me send out postcards. He'll help me write addresses. Like if I'm sending postcards out to booksellers or bookstores, he'll help me with that. So I love that I'm more available to them and that it's something that they can understand and engage in. But they both hate writing in school, so I haven't succeeded on that front.
But at least they're working with you on it, and they probably have an extra sense of pride when they see someone reading a book that they colored or they helped to,
Oh,
contribute to.
definitely. My little one remembers every piece that he colored, and he'll be able to point it out to his friends and be like, I did that. And I love being able to incorporate the details that they tell me, like their ideas, so that they see them in the books. Yeah, so my newest book coming out is a chapter book that I illustrated called Ava Lynn, and a lot of the stories in there are inspired by things that happened in their
Oh, that's
childhoods.
so
And so
cool.
they recognize them and they're really excited about that. So hopefully they don't get embarrassed about it later. But, it's all anonymized. So,
Yeah. I mean, even if they go through that stage of embarrassment later on, right? When they grow up, it's going to be like really good memories and really good artifacts that they have that they can show their
yeah.
kids too.
Yeah. And I can see, because it's not a direct, like it's not a biography and it's not a memoir. So it's just things that are inspired by. And I can see, I actually, because I have the two boys, one of them will sort of be checking how many things he inspired in the book, and the other one will be checking. So I have to be a little bit careful to like make sure that there's little bits that are inspired by both of them, so they can see themselves in the books or see things that they influenced in the books.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes on the podcast, I have to be like, okay, what am I sharing? Because sometimes they'll listen. I don't know which episodes they listen to, but sometimes they'll
Oh,
listen.
wow.
And then my youngest is like, maybe you should interview me for an episode. I'm like, do you have kids? Are you there? But I was thinking of maybe doing one special episode to incorporate them
Yeah,
into it. I
totally.
think they might have fun with, especially him.
Yeah, that's amazing too. Like you can bring them into your work and it seems like something that they're engaged in. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So, going back to when you had your kids, what was the parental leave like?
So when I had my oldest, I was at Intel, and I think I'm trying to remember. I feel like maybe it was like 3 months. And then when I went to Google, it was 6 months. I feel like the Google leave was longer than the Intel leave. But for both, coming back to work is rough. I mean, coming back to the work part can be fun and satisfying, but the pumping,
Yeah,
like that is the worst thing.
carrying all your stuff. And was there a mother's room when you came back?
There was, yes. So both companies had mother's rooms, which was great. I think for me, it was having to shift, because you're always running late from meeting to meeting, and you're like, I'll just 5 minutes, or like, I'll just pump a little faster. And there's no
You
such thing
can't.
as pumping a little faster.
Yeah,
It actually makes it slower when you try to pump faster.
right.
So, like, that kind of mentality of like, no, there's a hard half hour that I cannot be available. And I just wasn't used to that, and having to shift in and out of work and having to leave conversations when other people were still talking. That was really hard. I think I probably stopped doing the breastfeeding or the breast milk like after a year max.
That's pretty good. You lasted a year. For me, it was like 6 months. I was like, that's it.
It might have been 6 months. I don't even remember. But I remember going back to Google and having to pump. So I'm like, if I had a 6 month leave, maybe it was only a 3 month leave. I don't
See, I'm always
remember.
amazed when people remember.
Oh, maybe it's 3 months. It was a 3 month leave from Google because 6 months was my sabbatical, I think. I don't know. You might know better than me.
I don't know. I barely remember my leaves. That's why when I
I
ask
know.
people and they know exactly, I'm just like, wow, how do you know? Because if someone asked me, I'd have to be really like, oh gosh, I really don't. Because it's all a blur at this point.
I know, it's such a blur. I do remember though the first time I went on leave for maternity leave, and at that point you're like, you still have a few weeks left. And I remember being pregnant and sitting in my backyard, and California's so beautiful, and I just felt like this is amazing. Like that I'd have this time to just decompress, and maternity leave is great.
That's really nice that you were able to go on leave before the baby. I think for me, for all of them, it's like I scheduled a time to go on leave, but the baby always came before that. So I would be in like a meeting and I'm
Oh.
like, oh, I think I got to go to the hospital and then
Oh
just go.
no. Oh yeah, that's terrible. Well, that's the funny thing too, because the earlier your baby comes, the leave just disappears, right? The
Yeah.
later the baby comes, you get to just keep that leave.
Yeah. Yeah, but then also like
Yeah,
physically, you want the baby to come earlier. At least for me, because I was like, I
that's
can't
true.
sleep. I can't, you know, it's just so uncomfortable towards the last days, right?
It's true.
Yeah. And then the pumping too, exactly. I agree with you, where it was like I would put in 15-minute blocks on my calendar, but you never go at that exact time. So then it's like the meeting
Yeah.
goes over or something, and then I got to run over there. And then sometimes, we had a conference room. Sometimes people will be like on a phone in there, and I'm like, excuse me, I need to,
Oh, no.
you know, it's time.
Oh,
I gotta go, or I'm gonna be real cranky.
no. Yeah. But I feel like even between like my first child and my second child, the pumps got better. Like they were like a little smaller, a little more efficient, like portable, I feel like they got better.
Yeah.
So maybe they're magical now and they just
They are. Now I hear people talking about it. They're like, it's so quiet, people can't hear it, and it's like
Oh
wireless.
my
You
god.
can walk around the house with it. I definitely couldn't do that. I had to be in one spot, right? Everything was wired.
Yeah, I think my second one, I had the wireless and it was such a game changer.
Wow, that's pretty good. I don't think I had that. So, what did you do and what do you currently do for childcare?
So now for childcare, it's really me because I have the flexibility. And also, my husband was working from home this last year. So both of us were available. So we kind of split drop off and pick up. And then we also, half the year, we have the grandparents nearby. As I mentioned, they're going this weekend. So that's a huge help. So they come over once a week and they'll make dinner because his mom is an amazing cook. So once a week, I just don't have to worry about dinner at all, which is amazing. And then every once in a while on the weekends, we can send them to their house and they're perfectly happy to do that. So that's kind of our childcare situation. And I think because we have that sort of 6-month convenient period, we've never really bothered to get babysitters, which can be a problem for the other half of the year. Because our friends will invite us to do stuff and we're like, no, we can't. So there's like 6 months of the year we just don't see our friends, and then 6 months when we do. But that's how we are managing it.
It's nice to be able to have grandparents nearby. And also, they have a good relationship that way too. They can hang out with the kids. I think when I was little, my
Yeah.
grandparents were in Taiwan. We were here. So we would only see them maybe once or twice a year if we went back in the summer, actually, at most once a
Oh,
year.
yeah,
And
that's
so I was
hard.
always envious of, like, they had like grandparents' day and people's grandparents come. And I'm like, nope, not mine.
Yeah.
So it's so nice that, you have the grandparents nearby for half the
Yeah.
year for them to hang out and stuff.
It's really nice. And then they're also very like, they do a lot of stuff with the kids. Like his mom does a lot of cooking, so the kids learn from her. And then their grandfather does like a lot of woodworking, and they're Greek, so they go foraging for Greek greens and like
Wow.
the wood, so they like learn all kinds of stuff from them. I think when they were little, I was like, oh, they're missing out on like all these camps that all these other kids do. And then I sent them to a camp and they learned nothing. And like it was basically like a daycare, like they just gave them like paper and crayons for the whole day. And I was like, oh, no, you're not missing anything. Like go hang out with your grandparents. Like this is amazing. So it's really nice to have that around. Now that they're older, they're more interesting camps. But I feel like when they're younger, they tend to be a little less interesting.
Yeah, for sure. I know my mom sometimes she tries to teach them to like cut vegetables and stuff. And when I'm nearby, I'm like, oh gosh, they're gonna cut off their finger. My mom's like, no, they won't. Relax. So I have to like, let her do her thing. And somehow they manage, and they learn.
I know, sometimes I just have to walk
Yeah.
away. I can't watch.
Yeah, yeah. Because they end up doing a great job, right? And they end up learning. But
Yeah.
when we're nearby, it's like, oh gosh, something's gonna happen. I gotta get the band-aid ready.
I know. And I feel like sometimes they lean on us more because we're there. They're
Hmm.
like, oh, I can't do it. Like if you're not there, I think sometimes they do a bit more.
Yeah, like when they were little, when they go to grandpa's house, they wouldn't cry. They were fine. As soon as I walk in the door, they start crying. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
What is it about me? But I guess it's just when the
I
parents are
know.
there.
I had that too. I know. And I used to feel really bad about it. I was like, oh, they act up because I'm there, but there's no way to change it. If you're mom, you're mom, and that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. So, what is your current day to day routine with the kids?
So right now my routine, I do the drop off. So my husband wakes up and makes them breakfast. I get ready and then I take them to school. And then I'll usually do some work, writing and illustration work, or I'll work out. I don't know why I have a hard time doing both, but it seems to be whichever I do first is the one that I do. So I try to work out maybe a couple times a week, but I enjoy working more than I enjoy working out. And then this past year, because my husband has been working from home, sometimes we'll go for a lunch walk together, which is really nice. We'll just walk to have some lunch. And then in the afternoon, I usually take a nap and then my husband picks them up and then I'll do more work sort of in the afternoon in the cracks of the day. Like if my kids need something, if they need to go to a lesson or they need help with homework, I'll do that. If not, I'll work. And then after they go to bed, if I have deadlines, I'll work on stuff after they go to sleep. Otherwise, I just read or watch Netflix or relax. I probably end up actually working 20 hours a week, and it flexes depending if I have book deadlines or not. And then other than that, it's childcare and trying to maintain well-being, which I feel is hard for everybody in these times. Yeah, so that's what my day looks like. I think my husband is probably going to go back into an office soon, in which case my day becomes filled with a little more childcare stuff in terms of pickup and drop off and lessons and all of that stuff.
It's nice though that you have the flexibility now. You don't have to sit
Yeah.
there for like hours at a time and you can pick up kids and spend time with them.
And that's also, I think I have the flexibility not only in like the day itself, but also in like the weeks. Like some weeks I can flex, if it's spring break, I can push my work around that week, which is nice. And then my work too, some of it, like the writing, I need a bit more brain space, but illustration, I can just pick up and do at any time. So like, even if we're on a trip, I can bring my iPad and I can do some of my drawing while I'm on a trip and just fit it in the cracks. So it's really flexible that way. So I left Google, I think 2019, so right before the pandemic. And I was so glad that I was not in an office or trying to like do the 9 to 5 during that time. So it's been great to have more availability. And like I said, it took me a long time to get that job out of my system. Like it took me like a year to kind of mentally and physically extract myself from the point of like stress and anxiety that I left at, to the point where I felt like I could have the patience that I wanted for my kids. I mean, I'm not patient enough, but better patience, I suppose. And, just less tension in my shoulders and all of that stuff. So I definitely felt after I left a stronger realization of the effects that being in that job had by the end of it. And that's not to say like there are still great things. And I thought about going back many times. I almost went back, I think a year and a half ago, I almost went back. There's a lot of things about the tech world that I miss, or being in big tech, I guess. So I am always torn about it, but I think I'm far enough down the road now that I'm probably never going back.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, it's a hard shift to make. And then once you're out of it, then you realize how much stress it was, with the fun, with
Yeah,
the enjoyment, still comes a lot of stress that we don't
exactly.
realize how much it takes on our body until you're out of it and you're like, oh, what is that? What is that feeling?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I remember like, because Google had massages on site, and by the end I was getting like massages like every other week. It was like, please just like push some relaxation in like faster because I don't have time.
Yeah, yeah. Just make it happen. 15 minutes. Come on.
Right? I know. And it is so hard with kids. I do think you get so much more efficient after you have kids because you're like, I don't have time. Like, no,
Yeah.
we need to just get this done.
Right. Yeah. So I think that kind of segues into my next question of like, how did your work life change since you became a parent?
I do think that I am more efficient and I prioritize better and I cut to the chase faster. And then I like to think that my priorities are a little bit clearer and a little bit healthier, thinking about what really matters in terms of the well-being of my family, of the people around me, coming first above all else. I think sometimes work can start to feel like the most important thing in the world. And it's important, but there are other things that are important. So I think just a healthier balance that way. And then on the flip side, like on the negatives, I'm way more tired. I'm definitely more tired.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll look in the mirror and I'm like, what is that, another wrinkle? What's going on? It's like, when did you last have a solid night of sleep? I can't even
Oh my
remember.
gosh. I know. I don't even try anymore.
So it's good you fit in naps in the day, because it's like you can't get a good night's rest.
I almost never sleep through the night. And honestly, I'll sometimes wake up in the middle of the night and do some work because I'm just up. I know that's terrible because then it's harder to get back to sleep, but
you're up. Like, what are you going to do?
yeah.
And I notice also after kids, I feel like I'm a much lighter sleeper. Like, I used to sleep through a lot of things.
Mhm.
Now it's like just the tiniest sound. I'm like, what's going on?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's like, years of like having to wake up every 2.5
Right.
hours. Of course we're messed up now.
Yeah, that's true. And then being worried about your kids, right? Or they'll come in when you're finally asleep, they'll come in and be like, I had a nightmare or something.
I know. And yet, like, having your kid come snuggle you is the best thing ever. So you're like, okay, I'm not going to sleep, but come on.
Yeah, they barely do that now. Sometimes the 8-year-old will come in, but when he comes on our bed, it's like everybody has to get off the bed because he's so big now.
Oh,
Yeah, but then I still like when he comes over, because they just don't anymore.
yeah.
So, what was your biggest struggle or challenge being a parent in tech?
I mean, I think we talked a little bit about it. I think it really was feeling like I was stretched too thin between both and I wasn't doing either of them well. And that probably wasn't true. I think I was probably doing fine on both sides, but it felt unmanageable. It felt like I wasn't doing my best. I didn't feel present enough on either side. And I think I felt like the tech job being 9 to 5 was consuming more than its fair share, I guess. Because your kids at that point only get to see you, they go to bed early when they're little. So they see you for like an hour and then that's it. And I just felt like, why am I spending 8 hours a day in these circular meetings for a product that's never going to launch? I was in a point by the end where I was on a team that had been reorged several times in the last 2 years, and they didn't have a clear directive for the team, and they kind of had so many fires going on that they were like, well, you come up with the directive. So we'd come up with something and then they'd be like, no, not that, come up with something else. And it was like, why am I spending 40 hours a week away from my kids to do this? So I think that was the hardest thing as a parent, is like, I would rather be with my kids. So unless this is going to be worth my time, and it's hard because, well, there's always the money aspect too, right? At some point you need a paycheck, but at some point the paycheck doesn't feel like enough. It doesn't feel like it justifies the time away from your kids.
Yeah, for sure. I think also before remote work, it was like we would go into the office and I used to spend like 2 hours on the commute. So I'm like 2 hours on the
Yeah.
commute and then 8 hours at work. And then I see my kids
Oh
for
my
like an hour, like you said, an hour, and I don't see them in the morning. It's like, is that really worth it?
Yeah. Right, right. I mean, the money is one aspect, and sometimes you just need it, so you have to do it. But then there's also there has to be some level of fulfillment from the work as well to justify that amount of time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, with your kids currently being 8 and 10, what do you struggle with at their current ages?
Interesting question. It's like I don't take time to think about these things, right? It's just keep plowing on. um, I actually feel like right now is like fantastic because they're old enough to kind of do things on their own so I can have a little breathing space, but they still want to hang out with me. So that's really fun. I think I can see that my 10-year-old is starting to pull away a little more time in his room with the door closed. So I think that that's coming and that will be hard, but I'm trying to enjoy that they seem to both want to spend time with us still. So making the most of that right now.
That's nice. And as they get older, you're right. I think they go through that stage where they want to be with their friends, be alone, at least not with us.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your kids are similar ages. Are you seeing the same?
Yeah, my oldest is 13, and so he comes home, and before I see him, he's already in his room, and I'm like, "Wait, did he even come back?" And I see that door close, okay, he's home.
Oh.
And sometimes I'll just make him come out just so I can like see him, and talk to him. And at least, thankfully, I keep telling him, I'm like, I don't want you to have an attitude, okay? I'm not ready for that.
Right.
So I keep reminding him, and so he sees me and he just like does this smile, this forced smile. But I think when they went to middle school, that was an adjustment for me because I wasn't ready, because I felt like I had protected them, and then they go to middle school and they're like exposed to other things, and I'm just like, oh, I wasn't ready for
Oh, I
this.
have heard that. So I don't know, but I have heard middle school is much more hands off and they just kind of do their own thing.
Yeah, yeah. And like elementary, you can still go help in the classroom, you can still go on field trips. And I feel like middle school, they just didn't really have any field
Oh,
trips.
interesting.
And so, like last night, they had open house, and I was like, oh, let me go look at every classroom, see your artwork. And they were not excited about that. Elementary, they want to show you everything,
Right.
right? Middle school, they're like, do you really need to go to that
Oh
class?
no.
I'm like, yes, I want to
Oh
see. And they're like,
no.
uh. So that's a bit of an adjustment for for me.
Yeah.
But now I have 2 in middle school, so I'm a little bit more adjusted. Now when the 3rd one goes to middle school too, I don't know, then the older 2 will be in high school. I don't know about that. I'm bracing myself for that.
You'll have to let me know. Give me a heads up what to expect.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you know because my oldest is going to high school next year,
Okay.
and so we'll see.
Yeah. Nice.
So, what do you do for work-life balance? What are some things that work for you?
Because it's my own thing now on my own time, I actually probably work too much because I work in all the cracks of any day, any vacation, and I kind of don't take a break from it. And even when I'm not sitting at my desk working, I'm always thinking about it because a lot of the writing is just percolating on the ideas and what it is I want to output. So it's not physically putting it out, but it's like sitting in my brain and like thinking about it. So I found actually, I was thinking about this recently. I am either extremely stressed because I've like pushed myself in too many directions because I'm pitching projects and then they'll come back and then I have deadlines. And so it's hard for me to keep an even flow. Like it's never even, basically. I'm either super stressed out or I'm really bored. And there seems to be no in between. So what I'm trying to do is find things that keep me in the in between. And so I do a lot of yoga. I find that helps me. It just is great physically and mentally because it's more interesting than being bored and it helps stretch out my muscles. You wouldn't believe like how much drawing all day screws up your arm. So, so I do a lot of yoga. I'm trying to drink more water, which I think, they always tell you to do. And then I try to do these walks with my husband every once in a while, both for the physical activity, but also for like the connection. It's like a moment for us to talk. And so that's really nice. I find that I can't walk on my own. I get too bored. So I have to walk with somebody. Yeah, but those are the things that I'm doing now.
That's good. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we got a dog so I could go walk with her. It'll
Oh.
force me to go out and like I like to do walks already, but then sometimes like you said, by yourself, you're kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
And then with the dog, it's like, nope, I gotta go. And
Oh.
she'll always keep me company.
Yeah.
And then I feel like it's safe too.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Maybe I need to get a dog. It's been a huge discussion about pets. My oldest loves animals and just wants pets, and I'm allergic to them. So, but we're trying to decide if we just do it.
There's certain breeds that you can have that are hypoallergenic.
Yeah.
You could do some research into that. But my husband was like, I don't want a dog. And I was like, please, I really want one. The kids want one. And then
Aw.
finally he broke down. He's like, okay, fine. And then the next day we went to a rescue.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't want to give him a chance to say no, to change his mind. So I was like, we're going. And he didn't think we would actually come back with the dog. And we came back and he's like, what is that? Well, you said yes. So,
Oh my goodness.
but it's a lot of fun. And I think it helps the kids, have some responsibilities. And
I know. I think my kids would really enjoy it. But my oldest one loves animals. My youngest one is a little bit scared of animals, and I'm a little bit worried to like bring an animal home. My husband's like, "Oh, he'll get over it if we have one." And I'm like, "But what if he doesn't?" And then we're just like stuck with this terrible situation.
yeah, it's a lot to consider.
Yeah.
I think for sure. And like when you go on vacations, right? You can't just go
Yeah.
anymore. I'm like, oh, I got to find her a place to put her and stuff. So
Yeah.
definitely a lot to consider. So I guess the last thing I like to ask is what's something you would tell someone who's planning to have kids or something you wish you knew before having kids?
Oh gosh. Something to tell someone about to have kids. I think there's no preparing for it. It's exactly as you think it would be and not at all like you think it would be. It's so much more work than I thought it would be and so much more rewarding than I thought it would be. And I don't think anyone could have prepared me for it. So go for the ride.
Yeah, when people tell you it's a lot of work, you're like, but I can handle it, right? Like, it's
I
fine.
know.
And then you get into it and you're like, oh, this is what they were talking about.
I know. When I was like, I can't believe so many people do this. It is so hard, but the rewards are worth it. Somebody once referred when they saw me with my little kids, they were like, "Oh, you're in the investment years," and now that I feel like, oh, we're in this like great flow now, I'm like, oh, I get it.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I lied. That wasn't the last question. The very last question is how do people find your books? I'll put a link to Amazon, but how if they wanted to go search right now?
Oh, yeah. So you can find my books anywhere books are sold. If they don't have them, you can ask them to order them. But my website is vickyfang.com. That's VICKYFANG.com. And you can find links to all of my books there.
Awesome. And then on Amazon, would they just search for your name as well? And then it would show all your books?
Yeah, if you search for Vicky Fang, VICKYFANG, my books will show up. And there's a lot of STEM books and there's a lot of friendship books, creative books. So I hope you check them out.
That's really cool. And what ages are usually the audience?
I have books starting with board books, so like newborn up to 4th grade.
Oh, that's neat.
And maybe soon above 4th grade so that my kids still think I'm cool.
As your kids get older, your books target an older audience, right? That's so neat. Well, thank you, Vicky. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and share your story. It was really fun talking to you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It was really fun.
Of course. Thank you. Take care. Thank you so much for joining us today on Parenthood Bites. We hope you found our episode informative and entertaining. If you're a parent in the tech world or know someone who is, we'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to us at chow@parenthoodbites.co, and we'll be thrilled to add your experiences to our interviews. That's chow, CHIAO, @parenthoodbites.co. And to our potential sponsors out there, if you're a business or know of one that would like to support and partner with our podcast, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can also reach us at chow@parenthoodbites.co. Thank you once again for tuning in, and we wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Until next time, take care and stay curious.